Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live. And this one, a little bit of a special one because we're doing it on Saturday morning, which, Brian, I don't think we've ever done a live on Saturday morning. I know we've done like a couple of hits for the New York Post previewing some fights,
That's
but
true.
we've never done like a live show Saturday morning. But we felt like we couldn't just leave you hanging this week, a busy week for both Brian and I. But we wanted to make time for you guys. So thanks so much for rocking with us. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. Lots to get into in this, on this Saturday morning. We are going to unpack the new pack for Undisputed that came out. And we're also going to have our first edition of the Mandatory Gossip, which I'm very excited for. Okay, I'm the tea is hot this morning.
We're actually gonna call it that.
Yes, we're gonna call it the mandatory gossip because we gotta talk about this gossip, and the tea is hot, y'all. And I'm not. I think everyone kind of knows what this may be about. But Claressa Shields versus Remy Ma, we're gonna unpack that all today. But I think we got to start off with the news that kind of just came out this morning. Now, it was announced that Sam Goodman and Naoya Inoue was off because Sam Goodman got a nasty cut above his eye. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like, okay, this fight's not happening. But it turns out we actually have a new date. It's just been delayed. It's been pushed over a month. So we're not going to be watching some boxing on Christmas morning. It's actually going to be January 24th now. So the fight is happening Inoue and Goodman, but we're just going to have to wait for it, Brian. Your thoughts on this being pushed back?
I'm glad it's only a month, and I'm very glad that it means Inoue is not gonna fight on Christmas Eve.
You know what? I was kind of excited for it though. Like at first I was like, oh, like we're gonna have to get up early and do this post-fight show. But then I'm like, yo, it's kind of cool. Christmas morning boxing. Like, I'm not mad at that.
By the way, this also means that he's going to fight. I believe this is gonna be a Friday morning now, which is gonna be very interesting. I'm gonna see, but January 24th is the new date, so it's literally pushed back exactly 1 month. It was supposed to be December 24th. And at the time we're recording this, it has just literally just been announced this morning that it's going to be pushed back. So this is like all kind of happening in real time. And when you look on BoxRec, for example, the entire card, it's not just this fight, and then the card will proceed on Christmas Eve. The entire card is being shifted to that date, which makes sense because if you're on that card, you're probably getting paid more because now you're in a ways in the main event in Japan. Like that's just business and how things go. So I'm looking now, January 24th, 2025. It's on a Friday. It's 2 weeks after my birthday, by the way. But that is on a Friday. So I mean, Friday morning, that's gotta be better. It's gonna be interesting for me because usually I'm gonna have like two shows on Thursday night. But we've done that before, and I think it's much, much better because this also means that the last big fight of the year is the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, which is going to be 1 week from today, which also means that that'll be our last post-fight live show for the year, which also means that this will be it will give us more time to do our award show that we want to do at the end of the year. So totally self-involved reasons as to why I like this, but I enjoy this nonetheless, and it'll be nice to start the new year with the Inoue fight because there's not a lot in January to be like super excited about. There are some stuff in February and March that we've
Yes.
talked about, but in a way, sort of kicking off the boxing year in a big way against Sam Goodman, who is a worthy challenger and earned this opportunity. Like, I think that's going to be fun.
I've never heard anybody say, by the way, it's my birthday 2 weeks before, then just to throw that in there. That
It's
was pretty
exactly 2 weeks. My birthday's on a Friday. I'm hyped about that.
yeah, I know, but
I don't know
I'm
if
not
I'm gonna do. I don't know if I'm gonna do shit, but I'm happy about that.
I know. I'm just saying, like people subtly want to let you know about their birthday. That's not something I would do, even though it was just this past Wednesday. But anyways, nonetheless, I think this is really good for Inoue and Sam Goodman, and for Sam Goodman as well, because I was kind of worried that they were just going to throw someone in there, like with a week's notice,
Oh, me
and
too.
have and
I did not
have
want that.
Inoue fight him on Christmas Eve. And I was like, I wonder who it's going to be. Like, we should probably be hearing about it anytime now if that fight's going to happen. So the fact that it's been pushed just a month ahead. I think that's perfect. And as you know, January can kind of be a slow month. February, everything gets popping. So the fact that we could say Inoue just a few weeks after the start of the year, I think it's absolutely perfect. And I think this year is going to be kind of interesting for Inoue too, because if he is able to get it done against Sam Goodman, and not to just disrespect Sam Goodman there, but regardless of what happens in this fight, I think the cut is going to be a story.
Yeah,
It's going to be a
maybe.
story heading into the fight. People are going to be like, oh no, what if he's hesitant because of this cut? Is it fully healed? Blah, blah, blah. As you know, cuts, once they happen, and if you box before, they continue to happen on that same spot very easily because of that scar tissue. So this could be something that's really interesting that plays out in this fight. But then again, it's Inoue, and he's knocking out everyone that he fights. So it's like, it is what it is, right? But I also think Inoue's next opponent is going to be extremely interesting. And then there's going to be conversation about whether he moves up or not. I know I'm getting really ahead of this, but I think it's going to be a very, very interesting year for Naoya Inoue. And the fact that we're still getting this fight, I think this is a fight that fans are pretty interested in, right? Sam Goodman, this guy is a worthy challenger. So we're only going to have to wait a month, guys. Drop your comments. Let us know how you feel about not having it on Christmas Eve morning anymore. We're going to get it on a Friday morning, which is interesting. I think I'm traveling that morning, but I can always travel a little bit later. So we do the post-fight show. But that is going to be a travel week for me. But we will obviously keep you covered here on the mandatory with everything. We're going to do a full fight preview for that fight. And yeah, good way to start off the year. But let's move along, Brian. And just really quickly, let's touch on this, because there's talks that Errol Spence and Sebastian Fundora is actually going to go down. And it's kind of crazy because if Errol Spence wins, he can make Bud Crawford a champion. Is that right?
Boxing scene is reporting that. So I don't even think we have a date for this, like a confirmed, actual, set in stone, concrete date announcement for the pending super welterweight championship clash that is going to be Sebastian Fundora, who, I mean, listen, he won the WBO and WBC titles against Tim Tszyu. Like, somehow the WBC just shoehorned their title into this fight. It was vacant beforehand. And when you look at just the rankings, whatever the case may be, like Errol Spence, I don't believe has been categorized other than by the WBC as a contender in this weight class. WBC elevated him to number one because he was their welterweight champion for so long, even though he got his ass whooped by Terence Crawford, which is well over a year ago at this point, and we don't even have a date for this next fight. So by the time he gets into the ring with Sebastian Fundora, it's going to be post a long layoff, almost 2 years at this point, because we're already talking about closing in on a year and a half in a month or two. So basically what's going to happen is Sebastian Fundora has WBC and WBO titles. He's going to defend both of them against Errol Spence. But apparently Errol Spence cannot win the WBO title because the WBO is not here for, like, this fight, so to speak. Like, they don't want to put their belt on the line here. And it's probably because Errol Spence, as I just mentioned, is not ranked at all by the WBO at 154, which they're within their right to do that. The WBC has him ranked number one. Boxing is boxing. That's all I can say about that. So basically, Sebastian Fundora has both titles on the line because if he loses the fight, which I think there's a good amount of people that think that's going to be the case, I'm not so sure. But if he loses the fight, Errol Spence gets the WBC. But Terence Crawford gets the WBO title because Terence Crawford is the interim champion, and he would get promoted to full champion if Sebastian Fundora loses this fight. But if Sebastian Fundora wins this fight, no harm, no foul. He retains both titles, no changes. And Errol Spence, his career is in jeopardy at that point. So Errol Spence could effectively make Terence Crawford a world champion, a unified world champion in this weight class because he already has the WBA title. He could also get the WBO. And the shit that Terence Crawford would talk after that, after, like, I beat you and then you made me a champion, like, a second time after that. Like,
you know what? I think there's a little bit more respect between Bud and Spence, especially after the way Spence lost. Like, I think Bud handled that really well. The only time
way
I've
he
seen
whooped his
them,
ass? Is that what you're saying?
no, the way he acted after the fight, post fight, like he wasn't acting like that he was better than Spence. Like we saw that in the ring. Like Bud had nothing to prove at that point, and he wasn't throwing it in his face. The only time I feel like Bud said something is when they moved up to 154 and Spence was like, yo, I want to fight this person, and Bud was like, you're gonna have to wait. And I think that was Fundora. But listen, there is a road where Spence and Bud could fight again at 154 pounds. And this is probably the most interesting factor of this whole entire discussion that's going on. So Spence could initially make Bud a champion, and then there's a chance we could get a second fight between Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., and this would be at 154 pounds. Now, remember, Spence had a lot of trouble cutting down to 147 pounds. And before the Bud Crawford fight, I saw a lot of people riding for Spence.
Yeah.
A lot of people riding for Spence. And they thought that he was going to beat Bud, and then he gets absolutely destroyed in the ring. I've never seen Spence get beat up like that ever. Nobody ever did, because he never lost before. But at 154 pounds, it makes it a little bit interesting. And I wonder how many people might want to place their money on Spence in that fight at 154 pounds if he's not cutting down to 147.
I'd be very hesitant to do that based off the last performance, based off the layoff, based off Sebastian Fundora beating Tim Tszyu. Although you could really criticize him and be like, hey, he only won because Tim Tszyu had a nasty cut that he was trying to fight through.
That was one of my takeaways for sure in that fight. Yeah. But then Tim Tszyu comes back in his next fight, and what happened there?
Well, I think we just slept on it, and we should actually bring this up because if Errol Spence wins it, well, regardless of who wins this fight, whoever wins this fight, we're going to have a unified champion in this weight class. And that's important because Terrence Crawford has WBA, Sebastian Fundora has WBC and the WBO at this point. It's worth noting that the WBC interim title is held by Virgil Ortiz. And he's still in line to fight Israel Madrimov, whose fight got canceled coming up. So he's going to have more time to rest leading up to that fight in February. So there's a lot going on with that. And that fight actually may happen before we even get a resolution to this. But if Sebastian Fundora wins this fight and retains both titles, you still have Terrence Crawford and you still have Bakram Murtazayev. Hopefully I didn't murder his last name, but that's a tough one. But he beat the shit out of Tim Tszyu in October, as you were just talking about. And if Errol Spence wins this, then Terrence Crawford has multiple titles. So like you're getting closer to an actual undisputed scenario at 154 that could play out over the course of the year. It could even turn into like a little tournament between like Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, Sebastian Fundora, the winner of that, the winner of Virgil Ortiz and Madrimov, and then you have Murtazayev over there. So like there's really good fights to make it this weight class.
The only issue is that we're only going to see Bud fight once next year. Like, let's be serious here. We're going to see him fight. Like, when was the last time we saw him have two fights?
2019.
It's been a minute. We're going to see
that was Amir Khan and Meme Machine. I was at both of those.
What I think is going to happen is he's going to have one fight next year, and then if Spence was to win this fight against Fundora, then there is going to be the talk about, hey, could this fight happen again? Like it could possibly be the same thing, which would be extremely annoying. But the other aspect of this is if Spence loses to Fundora, he should just hang up the gloves. Yeah. Like at that point, I don't think people would want to see Spence in the ring again. And depending on how he loses, but he shouldn't lose to Fundora. No disrespect to Sebastian Fundora. But we haven't seen Spence at 154 pounds. But if you think about it, he was one of the kings of the welterweight division for such a long time. But you got to think about the accident, how much that had an effect, the eye injury. Like Spence has been through a lot of injuries at this point of his career. He's on the side of the latter end of his career. So the Errol Spence Jr. that we get, that's going to be interesting, especially after an extremely long layoff. Yeah. You know, so I'm not even sure what type of Spence that we're going to see in the ring. And I think that's the most interesting. Brian, any final thoughts before we move away from this topic?
We should note that Errol Spence turns 35 in March. And there's a chance that this fight doesn't happen until after his 35th birthday. So he would potentially be 35. He'd be coming off a layoff that, again, like, it's coming up on 2 years pretty soon. If this doesn't happen till the summer, then you're talking about him having not fought since July of 2023. And That's a long ass time. When we were talking about that fight, I was living in an entirely different place. You know what I mean? When we were talking about Crawford versus Spence. And before that, he had a long layoff because he fought Ugas, or Dennis Ugas, in April of 2022. And before that, he had a long layoff because he fought Danny Garcia toward the end of 2020. That was in December. And before that, he had a long layoff because he fought Sean Porter in September of 2019. Like, Errol Spence has had, between his last 4 fights, the layoffs, he's had, or between his last 3 fights, 15 months, 16 months, and then 15 months again. And this will be, whenever he decides to fight Sebastian Fundora, it'll be basically his 5th fight in about 6 years for somebody
Sheesh.
who's 35 years old, and for somebody who just got their ass whooped in this last fight, and for somebody, honestly, like we talked about this, who got by the Sean Porter fight, like barely. That was a
Yeah, it
very
was a
close
draw.
fight.
I scored it as a draw, and I will still stand by that. That fight was a draw, but I feel like he's the layoff king. Just labeling him as the layoff king at this point, because the dude just takes the longest time to come back in the ring. But I mean, there were some injuries involved and stuff like that. There was also a car accident. So
And COVID.
yeah. So I mean, those things have to play into effect as well. But
Mhm.
drop in the comments, guys, how you think Spence is going to look in his return, and if you have confidence in him at 154 pounds. We will obviously, read your comments if you drop them on the live, but at the same time, we always check those comments. So please drop your comments because this is an interactive show. Bryan, let's move a little bit forward now because there was a pack that came out that you could download for Undisputed. Cost some money though. Cost about what? $17 US?
16. 16.
Okay.
And it's on sale. So technically this pack is $20, but yes, it is on sale for 16, 15 or 20% off or whatever it is.
Okay. So Undisputed
17
has
something after taxes though. So not that
has an
much on sale.
update. They have an update, and we're getting this. After we bought the game a couple of months ago in October, they're finally giving us an update, but we got to pay for it. But a lot of cool things in this update as well in terms of fighters. Couple of fighters. Bryan, I'll let you read the update and all those little facts that come with it.
Okay, so I mean, people are calling Steel City STEAL because there are people who think that this is a money grab, not just this pack, but like the entirety of the game, so to speak. But I mean, if you bought the deluxe or a deluxe, like if you bought the WBC deluxe, like I believe we both did, you still have to pay for this. If you paid for, I don't remember what the $100 edition was, but it came with like a bunch of shit. But you still have to pay for this. So just because you bought the deluxe, it's not like with some other games where like in WWE, for example, they've in the past, like if you bought a deluxe version, you didn't have to buy like all the add-ons, so to speak, or whatever the case may be. Like if you have, I forget what the fuck it's called, but if you have it basically, then you qualify for like, all the packs that come out, whatever the case may be. You don't have to pay extra. Some packs you do, some packs you don't. But this one, you just have to straight up pay for it. So the pack is headlined by Jake Paul. We'll get more to him in a second. But also on this pack, you have alternate attires. You have other fighters. You have Mexican legends Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera, and Juan Manuel Marquez. And you also have heavyweights. You have James Buster Douglas, not Mike Tyson, who I believe still has a deal with EA. So good luck getting him for this game. James Buster Douglas, Zhilei Zhang, and Otto Wallin. No disrespect, but I'm not sure how many people were banging the door for Otto Wallin to join this game on a pack. But you have Jake Paul in this game as well, and this is one of the many issues with me on this. And there's also some gameplay stuff. We'll get to that in a second. Jake Paul has an 84 overall, Shantelle. 84. Okay.
It's crazy. That's crazy. But
So
I wonder if he paid to be in the game or if they paid him.
no,
They're like,
it seems like they
that's
paid
crazy.
him.
I want to know who wants to be Jake Paul in this game because I'm just thinking I want my fighter that I build to beat his ass in this game.
He's only a cruiserweight. So this will give life to the virtual cruiserweight division because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people just creating cruiserweight fighters and just knocking out Jake Paul, who is an 84 overall. I got to see if he's like overpowered or whatever the case may be. I haven't fought against him yet. I will not use him in the game. This also, like, we could talk about this, but I think there will be more packs to come. He has a higher overall rating at 84 than 43 boxers in this game, 43 of them, okay, including a few in his own weight class. I'm not going to give you the names of all 43, although I will mention that he does have the same overall at cruiserweight as Johnny Nelson, higher than Enzo Macchiarelli,
How does that make any sense? Like
higher
that
than
doesn't make no, that makes no sense to me, like whatsoever.
higher than Lyndon Arthur as well. I
So
think higher than
Steel
Lawrence
City,
Collier also.
so Steel City is gonna make me pay like $20 for this pack because I'm in Canada, so they're gonna have it a little bit more expensive, right?
Mhm.
And then they're gonna tell me some bullshit that Jake Paul is 84 and that he's better than Lyndon Arthur. Stop it.
He has a higher overall rating than these other fighters in different weight classes, but still, the overall ratings are not like weight class specific. Um, Joe Joyce apparently is lower than 84 in this game. Kell Brook, Caleb Plant, Sean Porter. I gotta verify that one. Regis Prograis, I believe that's true. I believe he's like an 83 or something along those lines. Jaime Munguia,
How does this make any sense that he's at 84?
Mickey
Like,
Ward, Kevin
oh my
Kelly,
goodness.
the Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelly, Natasha Jonas, Alicia Napoleon, Jessica McCaskill, Carl Frampton, Josh Warrington, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, a guy who lost to Tommy Fury and whose best win in boxing is over Anderson Silva, 84 overall in the game because, popularity. That's what I got on that.
The ratings are absolute trash. If you're in the comments, let us know if you are going to be buying that pack. There are some fighters in there where I'm like, I gotta get it. I haven't gotten it yet, but I do plan to. But this is one of those things, Brian, where I'm like, man, we paid $100 for this game if you bought the deluxe edition, which I did. And we're having to pay an extra $20 for this pack. And the game also has updates. Like, you paid $100 for an unfinished game, essentially, that we waited for like 2 years.
Mhm.
And then we get the game, it's not finished. There's a lot of things that have issues, especially if you're going to be playing online. And then they give us a pack and they rate Jake Paul 84.
Yeah.
And you get some fighters that you do probably want to play with or fight against. But I mean, how disappointing is that? Like, you pay $100 for a game and you get these updates later on and you're having to pay more. Like, I think that pisses me off because as a boxing fan, like, why are we they are Steel City. They're stealing from us.
You know
You know
what
what I
it
mean?
is, though? You know what it is because, like, you know how this shit works. It's not gonna stop here. Like, who's to say, okay, if Jake Paul's in the game, then Amanda Serrano is probably gonna make an appearance at some point. And who's to say, and this is like I'll be curious to see if like they have something like this already in the works. But you could sell a Puerto Rican pack right now with like a headline by Amanda Serrano, and it's like, okay, Felix Trinidad, Miguel Cotto, Hector Camacho, Wilfredo Gomez, and somebody else, maybe like a Crystal Rosado, right? Like someone up and coming or whatever the case may be, or a Stephanie Pinheiro, something along those lines. Like, you can do that, and they're gonna charge $20. They're gonna have a pack for this, pack for that. So, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I understand like the DLC coming later. Like, that's just where we are now. But I mean, if people bought the deluxe and you're gonna keep charging them over and over for these packs, like, where is it gonna end? Especially if, and this is the other thing, it's not like the game has been highly praised to the point where it's gonna get like game of the year from all these different organizations or whatever. I'm not even sure if it's gonna get nominated. We'll see. I'm sure like they'll figure out business ways to get this done. But the game has gotten criticism from the community, from like a good amount of people, whatever the case may be, just based off of gameplay, bugs, the online stuff. I'm not touching online play like that at all, but people who play online have been complaining vociferously about the gameplay, about the people quitting and then getting lost
Yo, can
anyway.
I tell you what happened to me playing Undisputed the other
Yeah.
night? This was like the dumbest thing that's ever happened to me on Undisputed. So I'm in the ring and I'm fighting. Who am I fighting? This is a player that I created, Heather Hardy, right?
Hmm.
And so we're fighting, and
Also lower overall than Jake Paul.
yeah, it's crazy. So I'm in the ring and I'm fighting Heather Hardy, right? This is like I'm fighting her before I have a title shot, and
Former guest of the show, by the way, also.
yeah, former guy, and she's backing up, right? Because I'm coming forward, because
Yeah.
like I'm totally fighting Mexican style, right? Like that's how my fighter fights, like just reckless. And she's backing up, and she backs out all the way out the ring into where she walked in from, and she's backing up and backing up and backing up, and she's like not even in the picture, and
Really?
all you see is her backing up like this. Like, I was like, what is going on right now? And I thought like maybe it would snap into like it would just fix all of a sudden, but she just kept on backing up and backing up, and then like that's what was happening. Like she just backed up out of the ring, and I had to restart that fight. It was the weirdest thing that ever happened, and that was the biggest glitch that I had. So that was just, it was just like really funny. I'm like, yo, she backed out of the whole entire ring. So there's like small glitches here and there, but that's like the weirdest thing that's happened on Undisputed.
There are new knockdown and knockout animations, and we're going to put up a couple comments here. There are new knockdown and knockout animations, one of which I saw, and it looked pretty silly. It looked almost ragdoll like. I like, again, to me this game is fun. There are things about it I enjoy, but I'm also like the target demographic for this as a boxing consumer of however many years at this point, and I've been watching the sport forever, and I cover it for a living along with other sports, but this is one of the sports I cover the closest. And like I'm probably gonna have a more favorable view on this in some ways because we just fucking have a boxing game for the first time in 13 years, like a triple
Crazy.
A, like
Yeah.
even though it's independent or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, like that also means people like you and I are going to be a little bit more critical in terms of like, hey, like your roster is we've talked about this, it's very British heavy. And we
Yeah,
understand
which I'm
because of
not feeling like, if you watch the show, you know how I feel about Euro level fighters, and no disrespect, but I want more American fighters and I want more Mexican fighters in this game, and I want more Latino fighters.
I want a Puerto Rican fighter.
Of
Just like
course.
a Puerto Rican fighter.
And just so we're clear, the only reason why I'm paying for this pack is because I want Eric Morales and I want Juan Manuel Marquez. That's the only reason. And I was
and
like,
Marco Antonio Barrera too.
yeah, I need this pack.
And I want Jile Zhang also,
Yeah,
and Buster Douglas also.
I wouldn't mind that. But Brian, let's get to some comments quickly because we do have some comments. We'll go to our good friend of the show here, Ryan Hong. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us so early, by the way. He's talking about Spence. Yeah, Spence is gonna look worse in the graphics of Undisputed. Yeah, because we were talking about Spence earlier, and his return as well. So let's get to more of those comments just in between because that came up. Spence is gonna look like dog shit whoever he fights next. Bet the house. Let's get to this one because maybe people are wondering, Shantelle, what happened to your eye? I had something in my eye and I was rubbing it and I scratched, my eyeball got scratched. So I was on TV yesterday and my eye wasn't as red as this morning is kind of red, but I had to drop some drops in my eye. Anyways, that's what happened to me. I only tell you guys because you guys are friends of the show and you're wondering, okay? So don't rub your eye hard ever because that will happen to you.
Let's get sometimes.
Yeah, big mistake. Nerd Ryan Hong. Spence hasn't fought in over 2 years, yet the fight to make is Bakram. How does that make sense? Nothing makes sense, nerd. Honestly, nerd, nothing makes sense.
He's a number one contender according to the WBC. They made him their number one contender, so whatever.
Yeah, No Me Gaming
says W
update.
Likes the update. Okay.
He said I bought it. I still have to buy it. No Me Gaming. So I am gonna buy it. I'm probably gonna buy it not today, but probably tomorrow. I can play it after like the football.
I'm not happy about it, but I got it.
Yeah, I have to, like with the fighters they added. you know.
Yeah.
Ryan Hong, is the game any fun? I see this shit on Twitch and it looks like a 4-year-old programmed it. On PS5, it doesn't look that bad. I know there's been some versions, like the PC version, where visually, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't look good for some strange reason. And I don't know if that's like a Twitch thing in terms of graphics. It shouldn't be, because when people stream on Twitch, it always looks like just like how you usually play it. But it's really interesting.
It looks passable. There are people that joke like it has like PS3 graphics, to
Yeah.
which it's like I don't agree necessarily, but I could see that because like if you hold it up to like Fight Night Champion, which was ahead of his time in 2011, like it's a tough comparison. But in terms of a gameplay standpoint, like yeah, you have to box. You have to
Yeah.
be able to box in this game. You can't like if you do the rock'em sock'em shit, your stamina is going to deplete. Like there are some fun elements about it, and if you like boxing and want to box in a boxing game, you'll find some enjoyment on it. But like it is kind of what you make it, right? Like the career mode after a while can get pretty stale because once you become a champion and you're fighting for a while, you're just defending your title
Yeah.
against the same people over and over and over again because it's hard to like move up and down the contender rankings. Like there's a whole bunch of shit in the game, but I mean, like we're also in this era of sports games where sports games are lazy. Sports games don't have competition. Sports games are very unimaginative and they put a lot of their money into like online. This one clearly didn't, but online and some of these other things instead of like career mode or whatever the case may be. And a lot of career modes, and in the case of
Yeah.
2K GM mode, like these modes suffer because like they basically like they don't have like large investment put into them. So we're in an era of just lazy ass sports franchises that like don't have competition because there's only one 2K, there's only one Madden, there's only one show, NHL. Like there's no like they all have like exclusivity. So if you don't have competition within games like you did when we were growing up, then yeah, the games are going to suffer, and we're seeing that.
I will say one thing though, that Undisputed is not a bad boxing game. I
It's
think
not.
we're
Yeah.
very critical about it because it's been a minute since we've got one. And I also think that we have this emotional tie with Fight Night, because I know I do. Like I have an emotional tie with Fight Night where I'm like just thinking about some great memories I had playing. You know what I mean? Like I think about that. And then we haven't gotten that game for the longest time because EA was like, you know what, we're gonna focus on UFC. And then the last UFC games have been pretty stale to me and like repetitive in my opinion. But I mean, I think that's happening with everything. But it's not a bad boxing game. And the thing that I do like about it is like you can try to go in there and brawl and just like throw haymakers and like left hooks and shit, but you have to have a game plan if you want to win. And you have to be tactical, and you got to see how the other fighter fights, and like those things about the game, those little nuances I absolutely love, because you actually have to know boxing. Like you have to know the skills that you're going to be possessing against a fighter that, like say if you're not a power puncher, like you got to use your skill. You got to be able to move around the ring better, which by the way, like I wonder if the update, Brian, you said you played it already, right?
A little bit, but I've
Can you
mostly
move around
I've
the ring a little bit better? Because like that was something for
I've
me that I thought was
yeah.
laggy. Because I like the way that I want to fight is I want to have a high work rate. I want to be the aggressor. I'm gonna take a bunch of damn punches and get hit in the face, but I'm gonna throw some punches too. But I want to be able to move around the ring because if, as you know, when you're building your fighter, like your stamina goes like crazy,
Mhm.
right? And if you're fighting a power puncher, like I want to stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. And I felt like it was a little bit laggy at times. And that
Yeah.
was pissing me off throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna get more into it before speaking on that, but I from what I've seen, because I was mostly looking up gameplay because, like, I've been working on that shit. Um, Looking up things, like, it does look a little more fluid. I feel like there's still gonna be ghost punches, there's still gonna be, like, those weird, things, and the AI is still gonna be, like, just appear off at times, but it does look like it's gonna be a more fluid experience, but I wanna, like, actually try it out, but I wonder what's gonna happen. Like, okay, so we have this update, and this is supposed to be like the update to December 1. And we'll only know with time as to whether or not that's legit. But there's gonna be other updates. There's gonna be, and again, like I just don't like this era where it's like the game comes out, it's incomplete. This isn't just specific to this franchise. This is every fucking game at this point. The game comes out, it's incomplete. We'll patch it up, and then eventually we'll have another update, and then eventually we'll have another update, and then it's like bro, the next game is coming out in like 6 months. Like, what are we doing here? You know? This is why people also fear that the game will be abandoned at some point, because there are people who think this is a big ass money grab. So I mean, we'll see. And the roster is a big thing of importance to me. Like I was waiting for this pack so I can get particularly Barrera, Morales, Juan
Yeah.
Marquez to restart a career mode, because now supposedly you can jump up and down weight classes, which
Yeah.
is a thing you couldn't do in career mode at launch. Which, how the fuck could you not do that in boxing? But
Yeah.
you can jump up and down weight classes supposedly, and with those fighters, like if you're in that featherweight, lightweight range,
You
like
know what
you're
though?
gonna want them there. And on top of that, it's like, yo, I still want a more well-rounded roster. Like, why does Adam Hamed get to be in the game despite the fact that he's 3-0 in his career?
Nobody's gonna use him. Okay, we're just
Honestly,
gonna kick his ass. The only thing that I will say is it like isn't a money grab. The one thing that I will say, guys, is if they put Chocolatito in this game, I don't care. I'm buying it. Like I'm
yeah.
buying it right away. Like I'm spending my money. So there's particular fighters where if they put them in this game, there's no way I'm not gonna spend the money. And I think that can be annoying in terms of if you already purchased this game, but there's some packs that might come out where I'm not going to be able to say no, like as a boxing fan and as someone that wants to play this on my PS5. Like there's like if Miguel Cotto came out,
Yeah.
we're buying that pack, dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's no way we're not buying that pack. So I think it's one of those things where it's like they know they got us. Like, they
No,
know we're gonna purchase
but
this.
that's everything now. You know what I mean? Like that's everything. But also, it doesn't mean you're not a fucking dick if
Yeah.
if you're just waving that in front of everybody. Like if I had to choose from this pack who I actually want to be in the game, I would take all three Mexican legends. I would take Zhilei Zhang. I would take Buster Douglas. All due respect to Otto Wallin, I'm good, and I don't care to have Jake Paul in the game. But now that he's in the game, because I had to get this pack to get those guys, because that's just how business
Think
works. Like
about
it's
the
going to be
little kids.
transactional. Like
Yeah, think about the little kids that are like, "I want to be Jake Paul." Like
yeah,
there's that factor. Like
yeah,
so
and
it was
then
a smart move by them.
yeah, but they're gonna get their fucking ass kicked because they probably like, they probably try to do Mexican style with absolutely no defense, and not know how to box in a video game. But like now that I have Jake Paul because of this pack, like yeah, I can create a cruiserweight and beat the shit out of him and then move up to heavyweight. Like, but if you're Jake Paul, also you're laughing to the bank with this because it's another bag. He probably doesn't care that people are going to beat him up in a video game because it means it's better for him, and then Undisputed legitimizes him in their own way as somebody who is like, they put him
Legit.
at an 84 level or whatever the case may be. There's going to be people posting that, hey, I won the world title with Jake Paul and Undisputed, and I won an Undisputed title and all this bullshit that's never going to happen in real life. But yeah, they're
I
going to
think
be able
that's
to parade
cool.
around doing that.
I think that's cool for Jake Paul though. Like just playing devil's advocate. Like if I'm Jake Paul
It's definitely
and
devil's advocate.
it's awesome if I'm Jake Paul. Like I'm loving it. Like if I'm because as a kid, you're playing all these games and you never think, you're possibly going to be in one. Like think about being an athlete and then being in a video game. Right. So I think that factor of it is kind of cool. And I always play devil's advocate with the whole Jake Paul thing because there's kind of like a love-hate relationship thing
I'm not going to use Jake Paul as a
no,
sympathetic
I'm
figure.
just gonna whoop his ass. But I'm just saying for him, he's probably like, yo, I'm in a boxing video game. Like, how cool. Right. So I mean, there's that
I
aspect.
feel so great for him.
Yeah.
Amazing for
I'm
him.
being
Yeah.
really positive and Brian is not, but that's okay. Drop your comments, guys, if you're going to be buying the pack, if you're excited for it, who you want to play, if you're going to play with Jake Paul in this pack, because that was kind of the trailer that was released. Like, ooh, we're adding Jake Paul. And I was like, yo, you should have made one with Morales and
He was the center
Marquez.
of the
And
trailer too, with
I
Barrera
hated it.
Morales. Like he was
Like,
the
how could
featured
you
guy.
do that? Like, how could you do that? But it's a pack that is really interesting, guys. We are going to continuously do these and undisputed updates with you guys all the time. If you want more content on the video game side, you can always drop some more comments, and we will have you covered. I believe their next one's going to come in March, springtime,
Really?
possibly. I think. I think that was the rumor. I could be wrong. Don't quote me.
There's been a rumor forever that Shakur Stevenson will end up in this at some point.
Okay, that's good.
But that'll be annoying because it's like I want Shakur Stevenson now because
Yeah.
he's gonna be featherweight, lightweight. He's gonna be both. They might put him at They might put him at bantamweight too, because they have people like not quite in the weight class that they fought in, but close enough as well, like just as an option. So like, but so okay, so I'm gonna have to do another career mode at featherweight, lightweight, and when Shakur Stevenson is out, you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And there's people that want Tank in the game. I would give
I
up.
want Tank in the game.
You think they're gonna
100%.
put Tank? I don't think they're putting
No.
Tank in this
I also
game.
want Teofimo Lopez in the game.
Like if you have the Saudis involved, Steel City also, Tank is a PBC guy. Like, what is the route to getting Tank in this game? I don't think Tank's going to be in this game at all.
Dollars a bag. Like
I don't think Tank's gonna be
I
in this
think that
game.
one, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do want
Like
to see a
Canelo,
better roster.
like Canelo's Canelo, and he
Yeah.
he may have even agreed to be in this game before he joined with PBC. I'm not even sure. Like this, but uh, I don't I don't think Tank gives a fuck about being in a video game.
But
But I
Tank
hope
is
I hope
Tank.
he's
I mean,
in. I hope
I
he's.
want him in the video game. Like
Me
just as a
too.
fan, like I would do a career mode with Tank, but I'm gonna definitely do one with Eric Morales and Juan Manuel Marquez. Like I have to do a career mode with them. Right now I'm doing one with Bam, and I'm
Mm,
thoroughly enjoying it as well. So it's gonna be interesting. I hope they put Inoue in the game.
that one I could see
Yeah,
because
I mean, like,
he
how
got
could
he
you
did that.
not put Inoue in the game? And then also when you think about in terms of how big of a superstar he is in Asia, like
Yeah,
not even and even worldwide, like not even just Asia, just worldwide. Like, how do you not have Inoue in this game? Could you just imagine just knocking people out all the time? I would not even create a fighter. I would just be Inoue all the time. I would see how far I could move up.
he might be the first fighter in the game I'd avoid. I fought Lomachenko, and like that was a stressful experience, but we ended up getting it done. But Lomachenko's a fucking badass in that game. Nerd, is the game realistic? Can you do catch weights and rehydration clauses? Not that realistic, but I mean, you can't do catch weights and rehydration clauses, but you do have to make weight, and you want to be on weight because then you'll have higher attributes. Like the better in shape you are, then the more advantageous it is to your fight night performance. But you can't really do catch weights. You can potentially come in like a little bit above the weight limit, but your overall will suffer slightly as a result.
There's been times where I haven't been in my like perfect weight limit, and there's been times where like I don't have a lot of energy and I
Yeah.
suffer in the ring when it comes to like the eighth round, but I still win.
Yeah. You
But like
really
it's tough. But yeah, it's not easy. That's what I'll say. Like it is realistic in that sense.
Yeah, like you have weight camp, you have fight camps rather, where you have to do strength training, weight training, different exercises, whatever. They don't show you any of this shit. You just got to pick it because they're just simulating it. This is where the game gets very like football managery. If you know the football manager franchise, their football, not ours. The global game, not the national one that we have here.
Footy.
Yeah. But that's where like it just kind of looks like that, where you're just pressing things over and over. Football Manager's fun as shit. I'm not like knocking it or whatever. But like I wish it's to say this about Undisputed. I wish that in training camp you could actually like do training camp. It was one of the things that we loved about Fight Night that was interactive with Fight Night, even all the way up until Fight Night Champion, where you could actually spar. You could actually that's a funny comment. We'll get to that in a second. You could actually spar. You could actually like hit the bag. You could actually like do all these different drills or whatever the case would be. You can't do any of that in
Yo,
Undisputed.
it would be sick because like in college football, you can you can do things that are not good, like not study for your test or
Yeah,
something like that.
you
It'd
could
be
go out and
funny.
party.
Yeah, like
This chick, this
it would be
girl
funny. It
always.
would be funny in the game if they're like, "Do you want to do steroids?" Like just terrible shit, right? Like just realistic terrible shit, and you would have to decide as a fighter. I don't know. Like I think that would be so hilarious. But I wish there was like post fight interviews or like press conferences, and then you could pick just like 2K, and you can pick what they say and like build your fighter that way. I think it's missing that element the most because that was one of the things when I was buying 2K that I loved, about the game. So I feel like there's that aspect that is missing as well.
They should add like trainers who are assholes, like a trainer who will potentially slip a little something into your drink that you don't know about to make you stronger or whatever, then you test positive and then like you have to like go at it with them, sue them, or whatever the case may be.
Yo, by the
You
way,
should
guys,
have like
yeah,
a manager that could steal money from you or whatever, like
yeah.
nefarious shit that you
There's
have to
got to
deal
be
with.
someone that steals money from you. Your promoter or your manager, someone's got to
Your
steal bread from you.
cousin,
You
your
know,
ex.
but I think that comes within story mode, right? Like, remember, there was a very, very good story mode that we fell in love with in
Fight
Fight
Night
Night,
Champion. Oh god,
and we
Andre
love
Bishop.
that. Yeah, we
Yes.
love that story mode. So I think, as we continued, it sounds like EA is possibly working on a game. Like, I know there's rumors about it. I hope they bring back Fight Night, and I bet you they would bring back story mode. And I mean, that wouldn't be good for Undisputed, but then Undisputed would have some competition.
Yes.
And so maybe that would be kind of a good aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, in this game, there's so many ways where it could be better. And drop some comments on what you would like to see in the game, and if you're enjoying it so far. Brian, any final thoughts before we kind of move on from this topic?
Nerd, they don't do VADA testing. Thank you for the comment. That was funny as hell. We both said around the time this came out that we probably give this game like a 6.5 out of 10. I feel like I'm still pretty much there. Like I don't think it's higher than a 7, and I don't think it's lower than a 6. I think it's right within that range, which is fine. Like that means it's a fine, decent, pretty good, fun experience. But needs work if it's going to be like one of the great ones.
Ryan Hong, they need Angel Garcia. Wouldn't that be hilarious if they started putting dads in the video game, just in the corner?
That's another thing too. I hate the way everyone like just looks, just in terms of like they all have the same exact.
Basic. It's basic.
Everyone walks to the ring the exact same way. When they get announced, it's the exact same response. All the trainers wear the same shit.
Yo,
There's
and I
no
think that's something.
personality. It's super fucking dull. It's
And I think
annoying.
that's something they could have added. Like, the Saudis got bread. So it's like, when it comes to licensing and music, like, we were able to do this on N64 for WrestleMania 2000. We were able to pick our walkout song and everything like that. So it's like, why can't we do it 24 years later? That's something we were able to do. Do you remember that for WrestleMania 2000 and on N64? Did you play that, Brian?
Yeah, a little bit.
You were like really young, right?
My brother had it, but a little bit. I mean, he had
It was
no
a good
mercy.
time.
He had no mercy.
No Mercy was dope. Yeah,
you
No
know.
Mercy was dope. But like, when WrestleMania 2000 came out,
Yeah.
you could pick your entrance song and like create your fighter. And you could also do that for that other game too. I think it was like NWO versus I forget, but you could.
WCW.
Yeah, WCW. That game was dope too. And you could do that that game too.
But you could do
and
that.
That was for N64, guys, in like 1999 and
you could
2000.
do that in Fight. You could do that in Fight Night also.
Yeah, and just like the Saudis got bread,
Like,
just license some music. Let us pick our entrance song. Like, let us do something a little bit different.
In Fight Night, you could choose how you want to walk out to the ring in terms of like what's your demeanor and your motions. Like, you can't do it in depth like the way you do it in WWE and even back then in SmackDown versus Raw. But that's because like the entrance is more a part of it than even in boxing. Because in boxing you just got to get to the ring. But when you walked out, like your trainers were wearing your colors. They actually had a little bit more life to them. It didn't feel as bland. The presentation was just better. And these are games that came out 13, and in the case of Fight Night,
you want to know how the
15
walkout is? It's just literally them going like this.
Yeah, it's literally them going like that, and they hold their gloves like. Who the fuck does like? Everyone does that. Get the fuck out of here. Why is Heather Hardy doing the same thing as Deontay Wilder, doing the same thing as Natasha Jonas, doing the same thing as Bam Rodriguez, doing the same thing as Canelo Alvarez, doing the same thing as Adam Hamed, doing the same thing as apparently Jake Paul is going to be doing? Like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, I think they'll get the details of how the fans kind of want this game.
They've gotten the details already. Like, the fans have been telling them. But they keep like, oh no, the game is great, whatever. Like, like it's just same shit. Like, when you look at any post Undisputed has, the top comments are, can you fix this? Can you fix this part of the game?
But I think it's easier said than done, right? Like, we can voice what we want in the game. They're not gonna add everything.
They've had years and they've given off. See, this is what happens when you overpromise at every turn. They've given off, hey, this is going to be amazing. We're working very hard on this, and I have no doubt that they are. But there are some things in the game that are obviously missing. Like, just obvious. Like, even
how many games have Steel City actually put out?
This is their first big one.
Well, that could also be the reason, right? They're not experienced in making games. Like, it's not Rockstar Entertainment where we're getting another GTA and it's going to build off of that,
But it
right? So
looks like
this is their first game, and I once again I'm playing devil's advocate,
this is
right? But
clearly,
like, yeah,
yes.
but
But
I
it
mean
but
that's why we have this show. But
but
that's what I'm
it
saying.
looks
Like,
like
we can't expect it to be like the most perfect game ever, because let's be serious. No matter what game they were going to put out, we were going to have criticisms about it. Like, waiting for, as people that like played Fight Night, as people that game, like, we were gonna have a bunch of criticisms for it. I just didn't think it would be this much. But it is their first game that they put out, so I'm like, okay.
allocate your resources into better places. Like a lot of focus was clearly targeted on the roster, like mainly the roster and getting like these alternate attires or whatever the case may be. But again, everyone does the exact same motions. There are not enough fighting styles in the game. The roster is very skewed toward one region, like in totality. The career mode, like it's pretty bland. Like it can be fun because there are fun things about it, but like and there's been jokes online about how all the created characters look like wax figures. Like they're like if you look at the game like in itself, it's like where was all this money allocated? And allegedly Turk put some money up for this too. You know what I mean? And they have the Riyadh season branding and shit like that. But like again, the game is fun, but it's heavily flawed. Heavily flawed.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, a bunch of people that waited for a boxing game, like, we're going to get everything that we can get out of it, but we're going to want something better. And hopefully the rumors are true with EA and Fight Night. It would be interesting to see what their roster would be like, but also the updates that will come after this one, because it sounds like there's going to be more packs. So,
Yeah.
drop the comments below, guys. Let us know how you're feeling about this video game. Let us know if you're going to be buying the pack. Let us know what else you want to see in the video game, what you're frustrated with, how your experience has been so far. A couple more questions before we get onto the next topic. Nerd, that's a badass game. I think he's talking about WrestleMania or also No Mercy. You can let us know, Nerd. Stone Cold Steve Austin was my guy. I beat the 100-man Royal Rumble with dude. Yeah, like those old school wrestling games are probably like some of the best games of all time. That was my pastime as a kid for sure, and that's when I think wrestling was
Old school
obviously
games are
dope.
just better. Honestly, old school games are just better. They invested more into career mode. Characters have more life in them, and
And just
ne-
in terms of wrestling, like the Attitude Era was dope. Like,
yeah,
that was my favorite era, and like after that era I just stopped watching it, but like during that time, that was my favorite era for sure.
it's actually pretty good now though. It's gotten better.
I don't know if I could get into it now at this age, but like when
It'll
the
be on
Attitude Era.
Netflix in a couple weeks, starting in a couple
Oh
weeks.
my god. Okay, Adam Hurley, I have a question. Why do we allow people that only have 15 fights sucker us into calling them the GOAT?
This is an
Wait,
anti Claressa Shields
yes,
comment.
because you guys, we're going to be pouring the hot tea right now. It's time for mandatory gossip. This is something that I've been waiting for an extremely long time. And now is the moment to pour out the tea, guys, because it's absolutely hot right now. What I'm talking about, there's some beef going on. It's between the GOAT, the greatest woman of all time, Claressa Shields.
According to some.
Yes. And Remy Ma. Now, this has been some of the most entertaining stuff I have seen all week. So let me break it down for you guys,
Please
okay?
do.
Because there are some great quotes as well between this beef. Now, for those who don't know Remy Ma, rapper, went to jail after being accused of shooting someone. She did some time. Papoose, rapper from New York, waited for her while she was in the pen locked up.
7, 8
Okay?
years. Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Okay? Long time to be loyal to someone when they're locked up. Just saying Pap did it. And anyway, so Remy gets out. She has this entire glow up. She's also on like All the Way Up with Fat Joe. That was like a hot song that summer. I think that was like one of her first songs that she hopped on. They were on Love and Hip Hop, and they were like all in love and stuff after she got out of jail. And things were going good. They get married. They show the wedding on like TV. They're all happy and stuff. And then like last year, there were rumors that Remy Ma was cheating on Papoose with this dude. And there's also a rumor that the way Pap found out was because he put a recording device in Remy Ma's car. And that's how he found out. So she was cheating on him first, allegedly.
Yeah, so he was suspicious. If he
Yeah.
goes to the recording device, that means he was suspicious anyway.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to continue to pour the tea right now. Okay, so at that point, it's like, why are Brian's like laughing at this? But at that point, it's like, why would you stay loyal to someone that you just waited for when they were in jail for like 6-7 years, and then she, you guys get married, have a baby, and they also had a miscarriage before their actual daughter. It was like some real like sad stuff on Love and Hip Hop, but they made it through. You know what I mean? And like you were like rooting for them, and then you find out Remy's like allegedly cheating. There's photos with her and this dude. Apparently, Pap was like, "While I was with my daughter on Christmas, this is what Remy was doing," and there's like a picture of them by like the Christmas tree. Hot stuff, guys. Now walks in Claressa Shields. So, so let me just give you a little bit of what's going on here. Claressa Shields, right? So pretty much there were rumors already that Pap and Remy Ma were split. And then Remy woke up and she started putting out their text messages between Claressa Shields and Papoose. And Claressa Shields was like texting Papoose like, yo, I feel like, I feel dumb asking you for gifts and stuff. And at this time, like Pap and Remy are still living in the same house because Remy owns the house, but Pap is like, I'm not going to leave the house. And he shouldn't because he probably will get half of it because they're married. Right. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't have to leave. Anyway, so Remy
and he's been trying to get a divorce, he says.
Yeah, and he has been trying to get a divorce. So then Remy posts like all their text messages, and her and Claressa Shields have been going at it, like legit going at it, to the point where Claressa Shields told Remy Ma, yo, you can come to Detroit and get your ass whooped. Brian, your thoughts on all this? Because Remy, I've never seen her use her hands. Well, she's just been alleged to shoot a gat. You know what I mean? Okay. So this is like a different type of beef, you guys. And also, I just want to say, like, street fighting is so different from boxing. Like professional boxing and street fighting, right? Because in street fighting, you can like, poke someone in the eye, like pull hair, use stuff in your surroundings. Not that I know of, but that I've heard. But
50 Cent warned Claressa Shields. He said, whatever you do, don't fight her. He wrote on Instagram, she will get the Blick champ.
Yes.
I mean, Remy's not gonna fight. You're gonna fight Claressa Shields. Like, come on.
I would pay to see it though, yo. I would pay money to see
seemingly hasn't denied her involvement with Papoose either. I mean, well, Remy Ma caught them on the phone together, which means
Pat fell asleep, and
I think people should know, like, if you don't know Papoose, like he's been a hip hop artist for a long time in this New York area, but also like in general. But he's from Brooklyn, and shit, I remember hearing about him legitimately in 2003. He had a Hail Mary song that was freestyle over, I forget which Dipset beat, but it was one of them old Dipset beats. He used to freestyle over a bunch of shit. I was there for like Head of State with Saigon, Alphabetical Slaughter. He had Born to Win on Madden like 06. Like Papoose is real, and he's like ill too, especially in that era. He's also a big boxing fan. Like, if you've covered boxing in this area, like in New York City, you've seen Papoose at a fight over the last however many years.
And we're gonna get some comments because the tea's hot, and we're getting some comments. So Ryan Hong, right here. Okay, this is our guy Ryan Hong right now. Imagine waiting 7 years for that shit just to get cheated on. That's what I'm saying. Adam Hurley, new friend of the show. Adam, thanks for joining us. You're leaving comments. If this is your first time leaving comments, we appreciate you. I side with Papoose on this. She was cheating on him first.
He said
but or he said whatever
I think
his name was.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you guys, but it's like Remy cheated on him first. You know what I mean? And she was spending Christmas with this other dude while Pap was taking care of their child. And then she wants to get mad because he's texting one of the best female boxers of all time in Claressa Shields and like dating her, and Remy's like, oh, he's got another side chick. He's got another side chick. Who cares? Like, mind your business. You cheated first. I'm on Pap's side because she's not loyal. So I feel like Pap can do whatever he wants.
I think we know too much. And I also think I don't know if Remy Ma is currently trying to figure out if he did something while she was in jail so she can get back at him.
Who
But
cares if he did though? She's in jail. Like if you're no, I'm okay. This is just realistic, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
like
Let me mute
if
up.
you if you are in jail, right? Like and you're still in a relationship with somebody, right? Like this is like really stupid. Like, do you get conjugal visits? Like, we don't know, right? Like, you have to get approved for that, right? And if someone's like, the phone bill's high because it's like you have a collect call from. I don't know how it is now, right? Because now they can like hop on
But you
like
knew how it
iPads
was
and stuff.
before?
Yeah, this is not anyone's business. But not in a relationship. But I've known people that's been locked up before, right? So
I was gonna
like
say,
that's
how
not.
much experience this is based off of?
Yeah, so like I've gone to a penitentiary. I've visited at a penitentiary as a kid and like all of that stuff.
Okay.
So,
She said as a
anyways,
kid. Okay, we could leave it alone.
yeah, like a teenager. You know what I mean? Like a
Oh,
teenager and stuff like that. Anyways, so I like now they can like video call you and all of this stuff, right? But Remy got out
they
like what,
could?
like 7 years?
Shit.
Yeah, Remy got out like 7 years ago. So by then I'm thinking
Longer than that.
it's not as like forward as it is now in terms of like video chatting and all of that stuff. But anyway, say if you're locked up for like 7 years and you have somebody, on the outside that's like, sending you like commerce and shit like that, or like, helping you out so you can get your bag of chips and smokes or whatever it may be. Like if it's 6 to 7 years, if you don't have like conjugal visits, then I feel like you should just like put a blindfold over your eye and let them do whatever they want because they're still riding with you. Like how can you get mad? And especially if he's a guy. Like you expect him to be loyal to you for 6 to 7 years while you're locked up. Like that to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, I don't know what dude is not gonna bust a nut in 7 years. You know what I
Brian
mean?
said
Like
it
I
a little bit better than I did, but
just being honest. But regardless, he held her down is I guess the larger point. I don't I feel like there's so much that we don't actually know, but all I'm gonna say is I don't want Claressa Shields and Remy Ma to fucking fight each other. As somebody who's known about Remy Ma and has listened to Remy Ma for a long ass time, right? Not like intently, right? Like she's not like one of my favorite artists of all
I just
time
did
or anything like
conceded on
that. But
karaoke like a month ago, but nonetheless, keep going.
is there video of this?
Obviously not. I would not have somebody record me doing something like that, okay?
so so basically, that threw me off. But Remy Ma, like, and also if you don't know Remy Ma, like if you've heard of Big Pun and Fat Joe and Terror Squad from back in the day, and Remy Ma was on Lean Back, and Remy Ma has had her own shit too. But like, yeah, I mean, on Big Pun's album before he passed, like they were already coming up together in that way. I guess Big Pun was obviously further along because he had already established himself, but he obviously passed early. But I mean, Remy Ma has been in our lives from a hip hop sense for 25-ish years at this point. Much older than Claressa Shields, but like not, I wouldn't say old, but like older. I don't want these two to have an issue. But Papoose and Claressa Shields, I mean, there's people making jokes about Papoose, about the type of women that he likes that I'm not gonna touch. But to quote of all people, Joe Budden, prayers to all involved. We can be diplomatic and sort of leave it there.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not gonna
funny though.
lie.
It's
I
funny.
would I wouldn't want to fight either Clarissa Shields or Remy Ma. I would just like run into a corner and cry.
Or
You know what I
Papoose. I
mean?
don't want to fight Papoose either.
No.
I mean,
But the
Papoose, by the way, Papoose reputation as a very nice dude. Like the two times that I've had very brief conversations with him at fights, seems cool and definitely seems like he knows boxing. And these were both at PBC cards a while back. And also, like I've heard stories about people running into him and him taking photos and being a cool dude or whatever the case would be. Like his reputation is pretty like solid out here comparatively. So
No, he seems like a stand-up dude. And I'm just saying I'm on his side because Remy cheated first. And it's like she can't get mad if he goes and finds somebody else and they're already on the verge of like being on the rocks. And she's younger and she's like killing it, Like that's like a level. I can't say level up because Remy Ma is Remy Ma, but at the same time, like you're not losing in that situation if you're Pap. Like I think Remy's acting a little bit bitter. Is she not?
yeah, it should be noted also. We should probably mention this. Claressa Shields, by the way, also amid all this, had a fight announced where she's going to be defending her. If you don't know, she's the heavyweight champion now, so she has that as well. I don't know how many titles she has, but she has like a lot. Maybe the answer is all of them. But WBC heavyweight championship fight, that's going to be in Flint, so it's going to be a hometown fight. That's going to be on February 2nd. That's going to be against Danielle Perkins.
And that's the fight she told Remy Ma to show up to and say, "You get your ass whooped."
Yeah.
And that's also something really interesting about Claressa Shields. Sorry, guys, the tea is too hot. I've been sipping it all week. There's also a movie that Claressa Shields has coming out. Ryan Destiny plays her. It comes out on Christmas.
That's
like
true.
Claressa Shields is popping right now.
Are you gonna see that movie?
I'm gonna go for sure and see it. I don't think I'll go on like Christmas, but I'll probably see it Christmas week or something. Like I love sports movies and like boxing movies. So
I prefer documentaries, but
I do too.
The reviews for this one are not bad. Honestly,
I mean, I'm excited. It's based on her life. I mean, anything like a boxing movie I'm a watch, or like a fight movie. Like if you guys, I don't know if you've watched it, but there's a series out on Netflix called The Cage, and it's about MMA fighting, and it's
I've heard about this.
It is dope. And they actually have like George St. Pierre in it, John Jones in it. Like it's legit. If you haven't seen it, I binge watched it in like 2 days. It's like 8 episodes. And I don't regret any of it doing that in 2 days. Also, that means I was not doing shit, but nonetheless.
The movie is called The Fire Inside on Christmas. That's coming out on Claressa Shields. And like,
yo, I didn't know this. What? Ryan Hong just commented, did y'all know Keisha Cole is Virgil Hunter's daughter? I didn't know that.
Look that up. That doesn't even sound right.
Because he is from Oakland. So like that's crazy. Keisha Cole's from Oakland. And Virgil's from Oakland. Like the gym that he used to train Andre Ward at. Like that's a famous gym in Oakland. But I didn't know that that's Virgil Hunter's daughter.
I just wanted to say that The Fire Inside, the Claressa Shields movie, like that has a legit cast. Like
that is her biological dad. Ryan, you just blew my mind. This is thank you for spilling that tea. Because Russie, we need to have more of the mandatory gossip. If you guys like this segment, we can do more of this. Drop the comments. Let us know if you like the mandatory gossip, because we can continue to do a little bit of this every month if you guys want. It's a new segment that we're trying out that I've been trying to push for a little while now.
This is a sport that will provide gossip. Brian Tyree Henry, who, if you love Atlanta, Brian Tyree Henry is in this movie as well, which, I mean, he's probably one of my favorite actors at this point. I think, and you mentioned Ryan Destiny's in it. There's also like some other like solid actors in this. Like it's a real movie. It's not like, oh, they're just putting together some bullshit and that's going to go straight to TV or whatever the case would be. Like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be in theaters. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be on a streaming service right away. My preference is probably if that's not going to be on a streaming service right away, to wait. But Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, like the ratings are not bad. Not bad.
They got some real actors in there. And apparently Ryan Destiny like legit spent time with Claressa Shields and like asked her questions. Like that's dope. Like, so she really got to know the fighter. Adam Hurley, Claressa responds to me on her podcast. It's kind of cool, actually. She seems cool. Let us know if you're team Claressa or team Remy Ma. Just drop it in a hashtag below. We want to know. I'm rocking with Claressa Shields and Papoose. I'm sorry. I just have to. Remy cheated first.
Other than scrums, I've had one-on-one interview with Claressa Shields ever, and she was getting her hair braided during the interview. And she was hilarious, like legitimately funny. It was from a few years ago, a story that I forget honestly what we spoke about, but I just remember it being funny. And yeah, I mean, I've never interviewed Remy Ma, so
no. Guys, drop your comments. Let us know what team you're on. Brian, before we get done with this, because I think we're kind of wrapped up on this. Whose team are you on? Are you on team Claressa Shields and Pap or team Remy Ma?
Prayers to everybody involved.
Okay. So he's not choosing sides.
You want me to choose sides between somebody who has been arrested for allegedly shooting somebody and somebody else who has every world title in boxing, and then probably one of my favorite underground rappers of the last 20 years. Like, I don't make me do this.
It's crazy because I think some people are taking Remy's side too, and they're like, "Leave that man alone. He's married." But like, they're in a midst of a divorce, possibly. So they've been having problems for a minute.
I do think, they should probably like just Just
Yeah.
call it at this point. Papoose, runs off with Claressa Shields and
Runs off. This is so funny. This is like the best gossip out, you guys. I'm very
I hope
happy this
Papoose
happened.
is at the fight in Flint. I hope he's
Yeah.
at the fight in Flint. Claressa
That would
Shields, I
be
expect to win that, by the
could
way.
you imagine if Pap walks out with her or like, like does like a song or something when they walk out? Like that's gonna be tough for Remy. You know what I mean? But I mean that's why you shouldn't cheat on your husband. Because stuff like that could happen.
Does Papoose still make music?
Yeah, I think he dropped something like
Wasn't
last year.
He was doing like an album every month at one point. Somebody or he was planning to do that leading up to his retirement. I don't know if he actually went through with that, but I mean, I remember
Papoose got bars though. Like
the Nasarema Dream. The Nasarema Dream was his debut album that came out in 2013. But like that was an album that was in the works for fucking ever and get pushed back over and over and over again. Like Alphabetical Slaughter that came out like years before was advertising that. And also R.I.P. DJ K-Slay because he was heavily involved in that as well.
And that's like big during the mixtape era too. Like that's when you were like downloading music and everything, getting the DJs.
I don't know what you're talking about downloading music.
I mean, I don't know either. I heard. I heard. Yeah. Statute of limitations. Who cares? All right, that's 10 years. I was doing it.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, statute of limitations. Anyways, guys, we said we weren't going to do an hour. We did over an hour because that's usually what we do. We always say that we're going to keep it tight, but we love to hang out with you guys. So if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, still continue to leave comments. We're going to get better at responding to comments. It's just that we're also very busy with our other jobs. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this Saturday morning. We are going to have a fight preview for you next week, because it is Usyk Fury 2. So that's going to be a very, very big week for us coming up. And Brian, any final thoughts before we get up and out of here?
Usyk Fury 2, and after that, an award show, because Naoya Inoue no longer on Christmas Eve. Very excited about not having to get up early on Christmas Eve, and I could just like get into Christmas Eve things. Christmas Eve is big for Latinos, bro.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's I think a lot of people celebrate more on Christmas Eve than Christmas. Maybe Christmas is for like NBA games.
For me, yes. And this year will also be football, so you're gonna
Netflix
be back and forth.
And Beyonce's performing halftime, so it's gonna be a great time.
Which game is she performing halftime for?
The Houston one. The Houston one. Anyways,
have not enjoyed the Texans this year, but okay.
They had a hot start.
I dropped CJ Stroud on one of my teams. Dropped him.
We're gonna end the show now because that's blasphemous. But
he
at the same time,
this year in fantasy, and my team's in first place. I'm like, no. We're not doing this.
Anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out this Saturday morning.
You want to know who I dropped him for?
No, I don't. Anyway,
yes, you do.
We'll do it off air. We're gonna you do. Okay, why don't you just tell people who you dropped him for?
Jameis Winston.